Hey, was Steve-O on that racing flag the whole time?
Welcome to DRC Racing and Beat the Barriers Street Race 2022. Today is the third qualifying race of 8, where Big Al and his Lancia and Matt Utalin in his Volvo estate have already advanced. I'm being told that is Steve-O promoting the new Jackass movie, sitting atop the finish line flag at the DRC. I'm Big Sam, your humble racing commentator, flying atop the big drop as we look at the roadblock barrier at the finish line, one of 3 barriers the drivers will have to navigate, including the 2 hay bale zones you see along the raceway. Racing today are Matchbox service vehicles. On the left, in the blue cargo courier's livery, is Grumpy Cloud from the USA, representing Grumpy Cloud Racing. On the right is the dark gray Ford Transit Connect, driven by Raw Sun God, also from the USA, representing Raw Sun God Racing. Both of today's driving teams are sponsored by Cliff International Raceway. And you can see driver select videos on DRC's Facebook page, and check the description below to become a Patreon member. There are different levels to help you get behind the wheel in future events. Midway through lap 1, Raw Sun God makes a nice passing maneuver on Grumpy Cloud as he slides to a halt in the big drop. Power sliding after hitting the brake cable. I don't see what happened to Grumpy Cloud, but Raw Sun God just shaking his head, you can see, shrugging his shoulders, seems to lose a little confidence and pulls the brake and slides to the finish line, knocking a few bales of hay into the ravine. Doesn't look like anyone's going to get points, and there's Grumpy Cloud held up just before the final 180, and there is Raw Sun God just held up right before the finish line. No points in lap number 1. Let's go up to the top for lap number 2. Grumpy Cloud takes an early lead, powers through the hay in zone 1. No problem in zone 2. A little held up is Sun God trailing, but it's all Grumpy Cloud sailing over the finish line and the roadblock as Raw Sun God goes reverse into the ravine. A replay shows Grumpy Cloud leading the way. Sun God is close behind until that moment in the hills where he caught a little bit of the track. The lead grows for Grumpy Cloud. And there's Grumpy lining it up with a big lead into the big drop. And nice and easy over the finish line with a nose grind into the landing area as Sun God follows closely behind into the ravine. 1 point on the board for Grumpy Cloud. Let's go to the top for lap 3. We've got Raw Sun God out of the ravine, and they're off and running. Nice passing maneuver by Grumpy Cloud as Sun God tried to grab an early lead. Grumpy's on his side going through the second set of hay, and it's all Sun God. And this time he gets the courage to clear the ravine and does a handspring off the roadblock crew. Look at this maneuvering as Grumpy Cloud powers through the second bales of hay, but catches a little bit of the track, goes on one side. Nice driving by Sun God, kicking the hay to one side and getting into the hills all by himself. Wonderful driving by Sun God as he's held up at the landing area, checking to make sure everything's okay. Here's the replay of the drop zone. Handsprings over the roadblock crew, kicking bales of hay across the way, and lands on all 4 wheels, sticking the landing. We're even at 1 point apiece. If I didn't mention it earlier, it's 3 points, 3 wins to advance to the next round. 2 races to go. It's all even at 1. Grumpy Cloud playing a little defense, gets turned around by Sun God, and now they're nose to nose through the second Hail Bay zone. Look at Grumpy Cloud getting tipped over on its side and seemingly helped by Sun God to get back on all 4s, and he rips out to the lead. Watch this again. Down to one side, the momentum and maybe bales of hay tip Grumpy Cloud back up on all 4s, and instead it's Sun God held up in the 180, and Grumpy makes quick work of it, sailing over the roadblock team, also sticking the landing and taking a 2-1 lead. Grumpy can wrap it up here in race number 5. The first 1 to 3 wins the match. There are no points for bonus air or coming in second place. Grumpy's out in front in the important race 5. It's his to lose at this point. Through the bales of hay. No problem in the second zone. He stays upright and he's in the lead into the hills. This is all Grumpy. But he slows down and doesn't handle the big drop well and dumps himself into the ravine. The miracle comes through and Sun God reaches to the heavens and pulls out a win in the 5th and final regular frames to tie this match up at 2. Let's watch this again. Grumpy Cloud, anything he wants. No problem with the hay. No problem with the 180, and he's on his way. But instead you see Sun God in the finishing area with one of the roadblock crew that he took along with him. Watch this finish. Grumpy gets a little too much air and gets sideways coming off the top of the big drop, and the momentum drops him into the ravine. And there's Sun God, prayers answered, helicoptering across the ravine, skipping off the roadblock crew, and sticking the landing, as one of the roadblock crew gets carried back to congratulate Ra on the tremendous win, needing the point to extend the match with Grumpy Cloud in the ravine. And we're back for the extra frame. It's been an exciting race. It could have gone either way in regulation, but both trucks have been fighting till the end. And right now, it's Ra Sun God out in front, who hasn't led through the second bale of hay since race number 1. Sun God is into the hills and will hit the big drop first. He spins around. He backs over the ravine, but he's not across the finish line. Grumpy crawls over the roadblock crew, and it looks like he has a wheel across the finish line. This could be over, folks. Let's look at the replay. It's all Sun God, but he gets loose right here at the top of the big drop. He backs over the ravine, hits the lip, and crawls into the finish area, but the roadblock crew blocks any momentum to cross the finish line, and here comes Grumpy Cloud into the ravine. He gets a little sideways, but bounces off of Sun God, breaks the windshield for sure, and looks like he's crawled across the roadblock crew, but stuck a wheel forward. They're getting the helicopter in the air to see an overhead camera of the finish line. Let's look at the replay from the midway point of the race. Through the bales of hay, it's all Sun God. He gets a little loose but handles the 180. Look at Grumpy Cloud. He's on his side, but his momentum and maybe some hay bales gets him back on his wheels. We'll see him in a few seconds. I thought race 4 was incredible, but look at Grumpy Cloud. Now it's Sun God hitting the lip, but gets stalked by the roadblock crew, and there's the overhead shot. He is across the finish line, folks. That's going to be official. Grumpy has come from way behind, almost sealing it in race 5, but gets it done in overtime with a dramatic come from behind, climbing over 3 different vehicles to stick a tire across the finish line. That is some exciting racing. And there's Grumpy in his patented all-white uniform, celebrating his victory and advancing to the next round to join Big Al and Matt Utalan. That was an incredible race. If you haven't smashed the thumbs up button yet, this would be a great time to do it. That was exciting. That's 3 races in a row that have ended in overtime in exciting fashion. Next week, it'll be luxury trucks. We're looking at the Toyota Revo and a souped-up Ford 150. Looking forward to that race. If you haven't subscribed to the DRC, this would be a great opportunity. Certainly smash that thumbs up. We appreciate all the comments. Love to read what the fans at the DRC have to say. A special shout out to our friends RXGT, Variant Skuntworks, and Cliff International Raceway as sponsors of some of the race teams. Special thanks to the crew at the Canyon for Diecast Racing News. I'm your humble racing announcer, Big Sam. You've been watching DRC Racing, an exciting Diecast racing experience. Join us next week for luxury trucks.
Hey, was Steve-O on that racing flag the whole time? Really? Isn't that kind of dangerous? I mean, that flagpole's been hit more than a couple times. Okay.